Good to see you.
Listen, that you too, man.
Finally on the brown couch.
The last time we seen each other was on a very messy night out in Ibiza.
That's right. We were rolling with our mutual mates.
Serge, remember the picture the three of us done?
Yeah.
Serge got that picture blown up for us, and I've got it in the house. But we all look pretty
tired.
But there's a great right in the corner of the picture. You can see a hand coming out. It's literally holding Serge up. Just this phantom hand like that.
He was tired.
Yeah,
night, wasn't he? He really was.
He looked like a vampire.
Yeah.
Because did he have a cape on? He might have had a cape on and a big hat.
I don't know. Just for a change.
Yeah.
Can't have been easy, man, because I'm looking at the 18 tracks in front of me right here. There are some omissions, we'll get to that in a minute. But you did make a big deal out of also saying, because you could have done it yourselves and you could have taken it out of the control of the record label, but not made a big deal about that, but you really wanted everyone to know that this was something the band as a whole, as a democracy, had sat down and done together.
Well, not so much, right, not so much as a democracy, because Gem and Andy weren't in the band for huge chunks of the songs that have made up the record. And when it came to picking the tracks, Liam, as I recall, was walking around. I got put. It was in Argentina on the tour. Got asked to do the track listing. Liam walked past me in the corridor with a turban on his head, with 2 pints of vodka and cranberry juice, going to the pool to leather the journalist from Q who'd misquoted him in a previous interview. I've
still got that article in my bathroom, mate. I read it about 3 days ago.
Yeah. So I was like, any idea the track listing? No? Songbird? Yeah, fine. You know, put Songbird on.
Yeah, right. As long as I get my points, I'm all right.
Yeah, that's same as Songbird on it. Yeah, I'll see you in the bar.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a democratic choice. In order and everything. So it starts with Rock and Roll Style and ends with Don't Look Back in Anger. It's just a case of filling the gaps. But I put it together like a set list. It'd be like, right, what if I wanted to go and see my favourite band and I wanted them to play my favourite songs, how would it all run? Can
I guess what goes second then? My favourite set list out of what would go, so it starts with Rock and Roll Style, then it goes Supersonic.
Some might say it goes.
It's a 1-2 punch.
Supersonic kicks in side 2, I think.
Does it?
Yeah.
Killer track.
Yeah. Well, it's still one of my favourite ever.
Oh man, that song stands up. I tell you, that was the first thing I ever heard you guys do, because I was living in New Zealand at the time, and we had, British rock and roll hadn't really, it just started to permeate down under at that point, because we were in a whole grunge thing. And I remember the first time I saw that video and heard that song, it was bleak. The video wasn't fancy at all. Raining, puddles, the whole works. You know, Liam giving it some up at the camera. But just when that beat kicks in and then the guitar starts, and I just remember thinking, man, I haven't heard anything like this for a long time. You know?
Yeah, but it's just, the thing I like about that song is it's just slow enough.
Yeah.
Because it could, if you do it too fast, it would be nonsense. But it's just slow enough.
About 95 beats per minute, I think, around there.
I'm not sure what it is on the BPMs, but it's just sleazy and it's a rough mix of a demo. Do you know what I mean? We never really recorded that for the album.
Yeah.
But all that definitely maybe era songs, they all stand up because they were recorded. You know, we were all in our 20s then. Do you know what I mean? Or Liam was probably about 19, do you know what I mean? So and all the sentiments of those songs still hold true today, so it'll never date that album.
A certain amount of the naivety as well, as you point out, being young and kind of getting the excitement of going in the studio and having those songs and not worrying about overproducing it, not worrying about record sales, all that kind of stuff. It can only happen once in your life, can't it, really, as a band?
Yeah. Because the second time around we were doing Morning Glory, although the approach was even more haphazard, it took less time, but we knew what our audience was then, if you like. Whereas before we recorded that album, we hadn't done that many gigs. Do you know what I mean? So we didn't know who these songs were for. I mean, I'd written them a few years beforehand, but when we came to do Morning Glory, we knew who the kids were. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was the fastest. I mean, definitely, maybe it was the fastest selling debut album of all time at the time. Mantle that was subsequently broken by Hearsay and then subsequently reclaimed by the great Arctic Monkeys. Thank God.
Yeah.
Did you even see this coming in any stretch of the imagination when the record came out in the first week? Did anyone even say to you, even say 3 days beforehand, look, we might something big's happening here?
I didn't. Not in terms of record sales, and not in terms of. I knew that we were going to be at some point the biggest band in the world, but I didn't.
Is that blind faith, or is that starting to build on facts as well?
No, I don't know. I just because I know enough about music and I buy enough contemporary music to know that we were the do you know what I mean? And when we got that record right, I just knew it, you know. But I didn't foresee because it was going like that with Definitely Maybe, and then once Wonderwall came out, it went like that. I didn't see that at all. I expected to be in the biggest band in the world eventually, but I didn't expect it to happen within the first 3 years.
When you're looking through the history, right from, you know, when you were born right up to, you know, discovering music because your other activities were getting you in trouble. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what saves you. And all those things, basically you get two options in your life at that point, don't you, when you've got those circumstances. It's either go down the rabbit hole or find something to pull you out.
I just felt, and only in hindsight, at the time, you know, you don't think anything about having... You don't think anything that you can somehow, as if by magic, play the guitar, you know, because you're like 19 and you think, well, of course, you know, it's a natural thing to pick up and play it. In hindsight, you look back on it now and just think, I was just so lucky to even have an interest in a musical instrument, because if you'd see the kind of 15 or 20 lads I used to hang about with in Levenshulme in Manchester, you'd realise what a colossal achievement, even as a person, me and Liam have achieved, because the other lads, bless them, are all kind of, they don't do much, do you know what I mean?
Were you frowned upon because a lot of kids watch this, well, a few kids watch this show, and you know, I mean, a lot of them probably find themselves looking for things to inspire them and to get them out of an everyday predicament of being a bored-ass teenager, and a lot of cases people frown upon it when you have any ambition, don't they? You know?
I'll tell you a true story, right? I used to stay in, I remember staying in constantly for a couple of years playing the guitar, being obsessing about it, and my mum, bless her, saying, you know, you're kind of 19, you know, and you kind of sit in your bedroom all night with this guitar and you don't have a girlfriend. Is there anything you want to tell me? And I'm like, are you insinuating I'm gay, mother? You know, and she's going, well, yeah.
What, because I played an instrument?
Yeah. And Liam thought I was weird. Weirdo. You're up there with his guitar.
But 19 is quite a late time to start picking up an instrument as well.
Well, there'd been a guitar in our house since when we were, I guess, early teenagers, but I'd never really taken much interest in it. Do you know what I mean? Because it was a big acoustic guitar. And
you want to rock at that age, don't you? You know, you're straight in there.
Well, I was into football at that age, and I thought rock stars came from Mars, like David Bowie and Mark Bolan and that, and you know, and you had to be. I didn't think until the Stone Roses came along and the Smiths that hang on a minute, lads like us can actually be on top of the pops. So it was only with, I guess, New Order and the Smiths and then the Stone Roses and the Manchester thing starting that it
well, it's in your backyard, isn't it? And all of a sudden it's more than achievable.
But up until that point, I thought all rock stars came from London.
Yeah. What was the first time like playing Top of the Pops? Do you remember what you did and what that was like?
It's Top of the Pops, man. I think that's when my mum started taking it seriously. And she said, right, we're on Top of the Pops tonight. And she's like, oh, right. Fair enough. But I think it's a shame that programme's gone now, because you know, there would always be this when Supersonic come out and we didn't get Top of the Pops because it went in at 31. We were devastated because, you know, it's Top of the Pops, and then the next time it come around and we got it, I just can't see kids being excited now, you know, phoning in bands for each other going, hey, we got Transmission on Channel 4, you know, Top of the Pops. I hope they bring it back soon.
Well, you know, there definitely is, there's something missing, I think, on a terrestrial level anyway, in terms of one show.
We got Jules Holland, brilliant.
And so it begins. Live Forever, man, voted by many magazines, and most famously and recently, I think it was it Q, as the best song of all time.
Yeah. Well, you can't argue with the public, can you?
When you wrote that, come on, man, did you know in your heart of hearts?
Yeah.
That was the one?
Yeah.
And you wrote it when you were working in a factory, is that right? One of the early ones?
I was on the dole when I wrote that. That was one of the later ones of Definitely Maybe. That's when I knew, after I'd finished that song, my songwriting changed. It went from kind of being out and out rock music, like Bring It On Down and Supersonic. No, not Supersonic. It went kind of another way then. You know
Classic.
what I mean? Yeah. And I remember Live Forever was a massive, massive turning point in terms of songwriting, because before that we were kind of a bit scruffy and a bit, but good. But Live Forever was an undeniably great tune.
Oh man, it still is.
And even when it came out, like when Supersonic come out, and you know, if you weren't British, you wouldn't know what the big issue was, or gin and tonics, and there's kind of like British imagery in the lyrics. And the same with Shaker Maker, it's about an old 70s toy. But Live Forever announced us to the world, really, and the sentiments in that song mean as much to the people in Brooklyn as they do in Burnage. But that whole thing came out of whole sentiment of the song. I remember at the time writing it, and in Utro had just come out, and Nirvana had a tune called "I Hate Myself When I Want to Die," and I was like, "I'm not that. I am not."
But come on, the irony kind of been lost on you on that. Well,
I don't do irony. It's like, I'm not having that guy. He's got everything that I want. He's got a big house. He's in the biggest band in the world. Yeah. He's critically acclaimed. He can't love. He can have her, right? But he's got all the money in the world. He's on smack, and he wants to die. Yeah. Well, that just won't do. Right. That will not do.
Live forever.
We're gonna live forever, mate. What's up with you?
Why, you went into the studio and started making, What's the Story, Morning Glory, like you say, with an established audience in place, but one that, oh man, I mean, you talk about upping the ante. When that album came out, it was all over, wasn't it? In terms of sanity, in terms of, privacy, in terms of everything, and everything that you wished for. Now, again, this is a time when a lot of bands tend to bitch and complain about it, because they're like, wait a minute, I miss my old life, but you embraced it. No,
it's what I wouldn't say I was born to do it, but, I wanted the Learjet and Bubbles, the monkey, and the Rolls Royce, and the and the fur coat, and I wanted all. That's all. I wanted all that. There's like some, yourself. Some bands, when they see success coming over the horizon, they get like rabbits in the headlights and think, am I worthy of this? Is it gonna? Is it gonna? Up? You know what I mean? What about my girlfriend? Or what about? We were just like asked. I'll gladly go into a mental asylum for the sake of rock and roll.
How long did that last for? How long was that period where you got the monkey and the fur coat and the brown Rolls Royce in?
95, 96, 97, 98. For me, it was 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit years. It was insane. Yeah. And then
they say that those kind of years can be a blur. Is that a cliche? Is that an exaggeration, or is it true?
Luckily for us, Oasis were not shy in coming forward, so everything is well documented what we've done. I don't remember the finer details, but I remember like the big things that like the big gigs and the mad outrageous statements at parties. They're all on drugs, all of them. The Pope, he's a smackhead, he knows it. All that kind of. I remember all that. But they were brilliant times, because the whole thing was kind of running. The whole Morning Glory thing, it was running away with itself. There was almost like a million albums every 6 months or something, and you were just holding on. But it wasn't. We weren't scared of it. It was brilliant. I want a bigger house. I want a bigger car. I want bigger shades. Come on, man.
You couldn't have got bigger gigs.
No.
And Nebworth was like.
No.
And I mean, is it true that at one point you sort of, I don't know when it was during those gigs, when you sort of took a look at the crowd, or took a look at, maybe you're on stage, maybe you're side of stage, and thought, we might have actually have a shot here, because where do you go?
Well, yeah, I remember afterwards, a pal of mine who was a manager, he was, I think, managing some band at the time, he kind of said, kind of flippantly, so what are you going to do now? Yeah. Where'd you go now? And it didn't in a kind of, after gig euphoria, it's like, we're going to do it next year. We're doing 9 nights next year. But then kind of thinking, well, what are we going to do now? You know what I mean? You can't. We've played everywhere. We've achieved everything that we've ever set out to do, which was to become the biggest band in the world. And at that point we were. But I've always said, that you've got to be cool to be cool. You know what I mean? And we were just. It was too euphoric a time to be going, right, guys, we need to just sit down and we think here, man. Where we're going. It's just like no. And the money had just started coming in from Morning Glory. It's like, I owe it to the history books. We've got to go bananas here. This has got to go more mental.
You've got everything that you could ever dream for in terms of the success and the audience, and you're getting luxuries. And like you say, most importantly as a band, the money's coming in, because you don't see that for a long time, and then all of a sudden you can buy a house, you can actually, whatever. But things were starting to unravel a little bit in the lead up to the next record, to Be Here Now, right?
We went to the States, and we should. And I say this only in hindsight, and this is where you've got to be cool to be cool. We should have walked off stage in Nebworth and announced that we were going to, go away and reinvent ourselves and blah, 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 and disappeared for 2 or 3 years, done a bit of living. But Morning Glory, the album, was in the top 5 in America, and Wonderwall, the only ever single we've had out in America, was, I think it was in the top 3 or something. So we owed it to ourselves to get out there and do it. Yeah. So we booked this huge kind of shed tour, and they're like, 30,000 a night. It was all sold out. And it was just that one tour too far, where I guess we got there, and we would always put up with the squabbling and infighting on tour buses and all that, because we were never kind of an hour away from home anyway, you know what I mean? But it just kind of spilled over one night, and this is true. This is true. The whole thing collapsed over a really the jacket that Bonehead was wearing when Liam said to him on the back of the tour, but everyone's on where'd you get that jacket from? And he went, what's it got to do with you? And he went, I'm only asking you. And somebody piped up, it's anyway. And it all escalated from there. And I remember being kind of, as they tumble off the tour bus in the hotel car park, thinking, I'm not having this.
This is it.
You know, let's fight over whether we go jazz or space reggae next time. But let's not fight over not even a good leather jacket.
Right, exactly.
Let's fight over a cape. You know what I mean? Or whether we do a concept album of goblins with laser beams. But let's not fight over a brown leather jacket with a fur collar.
And the amount of time and the amount of money that went down the toilet, momentum that went down the toilet over a jacket.
Well,
Was it meant to be that way though? Did it have to come to an end that way?
It's all part of the story, isn't it?
It has to, you know.
And I remember coming back. I take responsibility for that, because I should have just gone to bed and said, we only have 4 gigs left to do, right? And I guess I was trying to make a point to everybody in the band by saying, this is, we're going to here for ourselves.
This is not important. Yeah.
In hindsight, it was me that kind of went, no, I shall take my ball and I shall leave and I shall go back to England, Yeah. And in hindsight, that was the wrong move. And it just caused an absolute frenzy.
Only 4 gigs as well. Bands cancel and postpone gigs all the time. Halfway through tours, you got 4 gigs to go, and it made out like you guys had literally left America begging on the doorstep.
Yeah. Well, there was nothing else around at the time, and I'm glad that we were in that whirlwind, because, if, let's say, the next bright young things go over to America and cancel 4 gigs, nobody will give a flying But unlucky, or whichever way you want to look at it, it was on the front page of the Sun.
Dude, that photo of you walking through with a Union Jack guitar is an iconographic image.
Yeah, man.
Whether you meant it to be or not. And the fact that you're carrying your guitar out of case.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you meant it that way, but I mean, the symbologists will sit down and say that what you were stating to the press was, I am just a musician with a guitar in my hand, so back the
Yeah. And even after that, we shouldn't have gone. Then we had like a week off and went straight into the studio to
How did you regroup and go into the studio after something like that? I mean, what's the story? You just have just a couple of pints and it's done.
Yeah, it was kind of like a meeting round at somebody's house, and like, well, you were out of order. Well, you were out of order. Well, you said this, and I said that.
Right.
And then I think the speculation was that we were going to split. To end that, somebody had the bright idea of going into the studio and having a show of unity. And of course, we went in, and it just went.
Is it that bad a record? Be Here Now?
No, it's an absolute expression of its time.
I can find a lot of merit in that album, and I like that.
It hasn't got the legs of Definitely Maybe, right? And it hasn't got, the glory of Morning Glory. But when you were there, when that record came out, you knew about it, man. And for that 6-month period, whatever it was, right? It sold 9 million copies. I would give my child, right? I would give my child to Satan if my next record sells 9 million copies.
That is not true, by the way. That is not true. No,
if you're watching, Satan. 9 million, and they were going on it. The Oasis bandwagon stalls at 9 million.
It comes to an
as I'm bouncing 2 chimps on my knee like that.
Dude, the record industry right now would literally kidnap your child and sell it to Satan if anyone could sell 9 million records in a year.
Yeah,
when did you get off drugs? When did you decide to quit drugs?
It was 1998. It was half-time between Germany and Italy in the World Cup in France.
Right.
And I got up from an heavy night the night before with a friend of mine who is of Italian descent, and I had a big fat and a red stripe for breakfast, and then just went, this is not good, man.
And that was
this is not good. And I kind of broke into the sweats and went, and I'm a bit of a stubborn anyway, and it's like, right, from this day forth I shall not dabble in the white lady anymore. And that was it, and I've never done it since. And the great thing about getting off drugs is you get rid of all the people who are on drugs, because all the people who are, and the best thing is after about 6 weeks of being off drugs, you still surrounded with the same group of people. And I was out one night and I was just thinking, I don't like you.
I have nothing in common with any of you.
I don't like you.
Yeah.
I don't mind you, but your bird's a dick. you're an idiot, you wear eyeliner. That kind of thing. And it was kind of, you know, one by one, it's like, well, you've got to go, she's got to go, you've got to go, you're definitely, what are you still doing it anyway? That kind of thing, do you know what I mean?
And what did that leave you with, man? What did that leave you with?
That left me with me and my guitar.
And that's it?
Yeah, and the band. We took a year out after being out, and then we went off to the south of France to make Standing on the Shoulder of Giants.
Yeah.
And again, in hindsight, I love all that record. Is all the sentiments are quite dour on all, but I think they're my best lyrics because I was at kind of a low point. I was coming off drugs, but I was still kind of taking.
Yeah.
And it's all about fame and like where did it all go wrong and all that. But there's some of the best words. But I think there's a couple of very uninspired moments on that record. But I like it. And
you still kick off each live show with it.
Well, Go Let It Out. Yeah. Bushes, Gas Panic's great. You know, there's a few moments on there.
Yeah.
But during the making of that record, McGee decides that Creation is going to be no more, and then Bonard and Griggs quit on the same day.
So they quit
in the middle of the record.
They quit.
Yeah, they quit. Oh yeah, they weren't sacked.
Yeah.
In the middle of the record, so that's your record label with one of your best mates, McGee, saying we're out of here.
Yeah.
So you're like, right, we've got no record label, and all of a sudden, the two founder members have gone. So that's left with me, Liam, and Whitey, trying to mix this album. And the Wembley shows were sold out. We didn't have a band, and we're trying to mix this album, and it was one of the, you kind of either thrive off that kind of chaos or you don't. And luckily enough, you know, it was kind of like we sat home and like, what are we going to do? I said, well, the first thing I want to do is I want to call Gem from Every Stereo. That's the first thing I want to do because we need to do these gigs, man. And out of that chaos came Andy and Gem, which leads us to where we are. You know, leads us to where we are now. We're all writing, and it's
second chapter of the band, effectively.
Yeah.
Those Wembley shows, I was at one of those Wembley shows. In fact, I was at the Wembley show.
The one where...
we lost the plot completely. Came out, sat on the monitor and let the crowd sing the whole song. Fantastic. I think...
it was good for you. It was really...
Oh, you looked like you wanted to throttle them.
Well, the thing is, the night before was great, right? The second night is being beamed out live across Europe to potentially 50 million people. So I get the call that we all go home after the first night, and then I get a call. Liam's been out all night. Like, what's new? You know, give a shit. So he comes out and he's old. And just before I go on stage, he'd been out with one of the Spice Girls. That's all I was asked about. I was like, you're going to go out, right, the night before you play Wembley Stadium with Bobby Gillespie.
Didn't he meet his wife, though? Didn't he meet his wife that night before?
Yeah.
He did, right.
But it's like, go out with Bobby Gillespie.
Yeah.
Go out with Mel F or whatever her name is. Sporty Spice, for sake, man. You know, and then he goes on stage and it's like he's all over the shop.
Oh, mate, that was just hilarious. But from my point of view, I mean, he came on, he spat something about being left with the tea bag and then sat down and pretty much sulked the whole show.
Yeah, he was
at one point, I swear to God, you walked behind with your guitar and I swear you lifted it at one point to bring it down.
But wasn't he listing the terms of his divorce settlement?
Yeah.
The tea bag.
No, the tea bag. It's in the first 5 minutes as well.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, I mean, I've heard the tapes for that show are hilarious. Just isn't a song Wibblings.
We've talked about how important your brother is to the grand scheme, and you know, just what an amazing frontman he is. A great vocalist, got a great fire in his belly when it comes to music, and also what a great songwriter he's turning into as well. One by one.
About time he got his finger out though on that score, I've got to say.
What, on the next one?
No, to get his finger out writing songs. You know.
Right. But what, he needs to be more consistent and do it all the time as opposed to just rest on his laurels, is what you're saying?
No, well, if you don't all of a sudden be a songwriter.
Yeah.
It's in you from the start.
But he's clearly got a gift at it, which is probably the most annoying thing because he can just spit it out like that.
Too busy snorting washing up liquid, wasn't he, while I was by the candlelight, writing the tunes.
Being of good conscientious.
And now all of a sudden he's wrote one great song, and now I'm a great songwriter.
Oh yeah, well, what do we expect? But obviously throughout the years, there's been some ups and some downs with you guys, and very, very well documented ups and downs. And are you as surprised as anybody that you still maintain a creative relationship? You'll always be brothers, but you're still able to be in the same rehearsal studio and recording studio?
Well, as long as we're not in each other's pockets day in day out, year after year, you know. But it would be, I guess, to me, I find it fascinating that people find it fascinating. If I didn't write any words and Liam didn't write any music and we had to literally create songs together, I would find that fascinating. I kind of like Mick and Keith, I guess. But it's like I write my own songs, he writes his, and we come together to do, and somebody keeps referee when we're in the studio.
It's a classic dynamic between somebody who seems to be conscientious and focused on one thing and somebody who seems to carry a certain amount of the fire. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I liken it to, if, you know, you see those guys who are in, you know, they drive those Jeeps around the desert, the Dakar Rally or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Liam's driving the car, right, and I'm holding the map.
Right.
And I'm always saying to him, slow the down, I can't read the map. And he's like, map, schmap, we'll get there in the end. Do you know what I mean? He's always on the verge of crashing the car.
Yeah.
But I kind of take us down the back roads, you know, we get there in the end.
Has he changed at all?
No, he's still an idiot.
We can't get him, man. We try, we call, we leave messages, you know.
He doesn't. He won't go on television for fear.
He'll do Cat Dealey though, won't he?
Hell's Kitchen though, won't he?
He will do Hell's Kitchen.
You know what I mean?
Seriously, I think he takes pride in the fact that he does some of the most odd and bizarre television things.
He says to me one night about doing something or other. Yeah, going on chat shows, and I'm like, I got 2 words for you. Hell's Kitchen. You know, you're flipping your souffle up, you know what I mean? What was all that about? I was supporting me missus.
Is that what it was?
I was like, buy a record.
You know, the brother's not the only one who gets between the eyes, mate, and the list begins with Robbie Williams, Blur, King, Kaiser Chiefs, Block Party. Of course I'm going to do this. Sum 41, Backstreet Boys, White Stripes, Kylie, Britney, Eminem, George Harrison, George Michael, and most famously Phil Collins.
Not George Harrison, that's Liam's.
That's Liam's thing. But most famously Phil Collins, who has an entire paragraph dedicated in your online Wikipedia to various pot shots that have been made at the former lead singer of Genesis.
It was some flippant comment about him being the Antichrist that he got.
just off the cuff.
That he got the arse with. You know, these old fellas, eh? They'll take offence to anything.
They get more sensitive, don't they, as they get older? You've had some fun, man. You've had some fun. And it's pop music, isn't it? It's right. It's culture. It's pop culture.
Well, right. The thing is, you say these things, and I'll admit, right, they look bad in print, right? But a lot of it, I probably gave a very balanced view about Phil Collins that day. But I admit that the thing that looks bad/good in print is the bit about the Antichrist. Fine, fair enough. But, you know, people are allowed to say things about me. Yeah. But you see, Phil Collins knows he can't say anything about me because I'm the
But this is the thing, though.
But that's the thing that does his head in, and the fact that he's bald. And he's left the country because the Labour Party got in a power. They're a toe rag.
Would you remember the time that I interviewed you?
If that's not a reason to vote Labour at the next election, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, but who are you going to vote for? Jesus, they're all as bad as each other, man, seriously.
No, totally.
Tell me I'm wrong. Who do you like? Kasabian you like?
I love Kasabian, I love the Kings of Leon.
Yeah.
Primal Scream.
Yeah.
The Zootons. The Coral. In fact, I was up in the studio with the Coral last night. They're up at my place doing a new album.
Nice. In your studio?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Good.
My old mate Weller.
Yeah. Shaq.
The guy's a genius.
Yeah.
The Monkeys. Yeah. Brilliant. There's a lot. I'm not into this indie disco thing that's going on at the minute. I think Franz Ferdinand nailed that a few years back, and every time I watch, you know, the like stuff on the telly, it's all this, you know, it's all a bit samey for me. But I guess it's only like Britpop was in the days. You know what I mean? Everybody kind of
everything goes in cycles. Do you know what I mean? There seems to be a new sort of culture of bands coming from the United Kingdom, which I think are talking specifically about what stuff in their area, which I think, being a foreigner, is a very healthy thing. Yeah. You know, because I grew up in a country where everyone was trying to be somebody else for a long time. New Zealand's far away.
Well, I like the way that kids in bands look these days. I like the attitude that they've got. But I think I don't think Razorlight are a great band, but I think they've written some great tunes, you know what I mean? But I don't put them up there yet.
But you respect his ambition, don't you?
Oh yeah, you've got to have that. You've got to have. I love his quote about Bob Dylan, you know, and all that. You've got to have that. But I'm a bit disappointed that the album he's got out now. It sounds like the Cars to me, and the Cars are
yeah, I mean, you know, I think they rushed it. You know, I think it's a good record. I like it, but I think they pushed it out quite quick.
The guy's got some tunes, and I do dig his ambition. I got to say that.
Yeah, for sure.
But even those fellas, the Kooks, right? Which I don't like them, but that tune, there's one tune it was in my head for about a week.
I know, she knows.
No, not that one. You have to sing that as though you got your jaw wide up, don't you? I know that she knows. I'm not from the Western. I don't like that one. It's the other one. That's the one. I got in my head. It was for a week and a half, and I was like,
they write tunes, man.
Yeah,
I think 2 or 3 albums down the line.
Weller loves them, man.
2 or 3 albums down the line, you're going to find that band. If they can stick it out, they're going to have a classic repertoire.
I like Dirty Pretty Things as well, actually.
Any American bands? The Killers, you heard that new record?
I've heard the single, but I love the guitar line.
Great album, man. You should check that. Oh, Kings of Leon, obviously, an American band.
They're just, to me, they're up there with some of the greats that have come out of the States.
I agree, man. And at a time was releasing second albums which are subpar, they came out with one which I think was better than the first.
Yeah, totally.
Some questions from people who know you through your music and now want to get to know you a little better. This one from Holy Toaster. Hollywood contacts you to say that they want you to play the lead in a megabucks blockbuster movie. Any movie of the last 50 years, a classic film, a remake.
Remake?
Yeah. Your choice.
I'd have to go for
Long Good Friday. You can see you in the Hoskins role.
I couldn't. For the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be something that Clint Eastwood doesn't say a word in. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'd say. Yeah. I can do that kind of cigar smoke and going. What?
All right, I like it. Okay.
Either that or want a Spinal Tap, obviously.
Which, obviously, yeah. Tight Hippo. Which chat show host do you hate the most? You can throw that my way if you like.
I don't. Chat show host, do I? Hey, try and say out. You've had a few beers. Which chat show host do you hate the most? They've all. Jonathan Ross is difficult to go on because you never get a word in edgeways with him because
he's got an agenda. He's a funny man.
You could go on and you'd say, I've found the cure for cancer, and he'd make a joke out of it. Do you know what I mean? But he's a funny guy. But I don't know. I don't really watch chat shows.
What do you watch?
I watch a lot of football. I watch the NME chart show. Yeah. Just to keep abreast of what snivelling idiots are in the music these days. And I watch.
As programmed by that snivelling idiot over there.
I watch. Is it really?
Partly.
It's good though, man. I like it. I like to watch that. I watch the music programs that are on. Yeah. A lot of that. Seinfeld. I could watch it all day.
Paramount.
All
anything on Paramount.
Yeah.
You watch Entourage?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Funny.
Is it good?
Check it out. It's good. Any cartoons? Family Guy, Simpsons?
Family Guy's great. Yeah. King of the Hill's brilliant. Yeah. South Park still rules on that.
Oh man, killing it. Yeah. Sexual harassment. And this one from Spectrum Night. How easy was it to fire people from the band when you didn't? Did you? Well, Whitey, did you fire Whitey?
No. He for the record. Yeah. Still miss that boy because he's a good lad.
Great drummer too.
But he started to act like a session musician. Right. And he just something happened between him and Liam. I don't know what. And if it's a case of siding with your brother or siding with the drummer, I'm afraid your brother wins out.
Exactly.
But he kind of didn't turn up for some really important stuff, and it was like, you know what, he doesn't give a shit. So.
Do you still keep in contact with any of the old guys in the band?
Do you know, I've not spoke to Bonehead and Gwiggs since the day that they left, which is
weird. That's so strange.
It is strange. But I phoned Gwiggs up in the weeks after he left by fax, by the way. Now, how 80s is that?
What? Fax?
Yeah, left by fax. That's old school, man.
Yeah, seriously.
And I used to call his missus.
Did you have a fax, or does your management company have a fax? Because you have to have one to receive
somebody just showed me the fax. Right. You know, I remember phoning his missus, right, and I knew there was something when on the third time I'd called, and she said, he's at the shops. And I was like, look, Ruth, I know that boy. He's too mashed up in his own brain. He's too out of his head on to even contemplate going to the shops. Certainly he's not been there 3 days on the spin. What's he saying? No, he's at the shops, he called me when he gets back, and I was like, you know what, I'll take that as a goodbye then. And that was that. And Bonehead, we were supposed to meet up for doing the DVD of Definitely Maybe, and he bottled out at the last minute because he thought, he'd sent word, he said, I'm not getting involved in any of that reunion. He thought we were all going to have a group hug.
Oh, bliss.
And he's like, get to
oh, bliss.
I don't know, but, you know, I hold no grudges against any of those cats, you know what I mean?
Oh man, they're shedding a big part of your history, you know?
Oh, they were all the people think I wouldn't be in the band. I wouldn't be in the band if it wasn't for them.
This from Ginwai. What's your favourite Blur song? That's a serious question.
Beat a Bum.
I love that track. They had some moments, man, I think.
Beat a Bum. I do like his stuff. I do like his bits within the Gorillaz stuff. You know, on the Feel Good Inc., the windmill bit, this obviously is. I love that bit, and the rest of it, I don't hip-hop, I don't like that culture, man. Right on. But I Beat a Bum, when I first heard that, I was just like...
this one, favourite cheese, it's a Gonzo classic from Algon Boy. Favourite cheese?
Favourite cheese? Irish cheddar, I guess. Yeah? I don't know, my missus is a expert on cheese.
Right, really?
Yeah, all right, totally,
good.
Man.
Okay, wine and crackers round your place. This from O Goncho. What's your favourite science fiction film? You got one?
Oh, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it?
That's
out
the
of all
one.
6.
The bit where you just go, it's his dad.
Yeah. No, to me it was the Snowwalkers, man. First time I saw them, I was just
No, but I remember being in the pictures going, Darth Vader is his dad. I never seen that coming.
What's going on next year? Another record?
I don't know. We've got there's no plans. No plans to do anything.
No record deal either.
No record deal. We're independent. We're staying on our own in England. I think we're gonna license stuff for the rest of the world.
Smart.
Yeah. I'm not sure. What's going on.
Any interest? Do you think? You want to do one? Do you think? You got songs? Are they coming out?
Yeah, we've got a lot of songs left over from the last record.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Well, we had 11 left over. 7 are really good. 4 out of that 7 are great. And it's just a case of when everybody gets together and says, today's the day. Let's go and do it. But the last time we sat down and made plans, we ballsed up 3 years making Don't Believe the Truth, because we're going to do this, and then that's going to take us to that, and then we'll launch it at Glastonbury, and it's all going to be great. And it all just fell apart. So this time we were like, you know what?
It'll be done when it's done.
Yeah, Liam's just bought a new house, so
we know what happened last time we went house hunting. No,
absolutely. So, he's got to move into his country pile, and I'm in no rush anyway, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough, man. You want to produce or do anything like that? You've got a label as well, which you could put a bit of love into.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm doing the Best of Shack coming out beginning of next year, which that's being put together at the minute. And if I see something I fancy putting out, you know what? I've always fancied doing. Noel Gallagher sings the songs of the Left Bank. Do you know that band from the 60s, the Left Bank? But it's kind of...
A lot of people have been wondering about whether or not you're going to do anything on your own as well, and you've been hinting at it for a while. Would it cause tremors within the band if you did it?
Yeah, every time you've heard me in an interview saying, yes, I'm definitely going to make a solo record, that's only to wind Liam up, because I know when he hears it,
he's going to freak. That's the Machiavellian side.
I'd love to. It will happen. It will happen one day. But I don't know whether I'd fancy a solo career, a la Richard Ashcroft. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not a frontman. I reckon I could make a decent solo record, but I don't know whether I'd go out on the road and do the thing about being a frontman.
Perhaps the only time this will ever happen, but in comparison between yourself and Tom York, he's done the very similar thing, and he's done it effectively. He's gone out there and he's done his record that he wanted to make on his own terms. He doesn't necessarily tour it, he's just got it out there. And,
yeah, I like the fact that Radiohead and, that they can still... Because they're still a huge band and they can still exist, and Tom York can go and do his thing, which I quite like, actually. The first single off that I seen on MTV.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, no, and a very similar stage. They're out of a deal as well. They're in a similar stage where they're kind of regrouping and working on this.
Because we've got Oz and Radiohead have got the same music lawyer, and he tells me that the eyes of the music business is waiting to see what both bands do next.
Of course, because it's going to be
Radiohead, if they're staying true to their principles, will obviously be giving their records away in plain brown paper bags for free, whereas we'll probably sign to K-Tel or Ronco.
And on that note, well done with the best of. The timing is good for it, man. Stop the clocks, and we'll get the official track listing at some point and announce it to the nation, to our part of the nation anyway. And it's been nice to talk to you, man. Thanks for your time.
You too, man.
Good to see you, Noel.
Take care.
Nice.